Today we've gathered for the committee's second hearing examining safety and well-being of unaccompanied children who seek refuge in the United States. We held the first hearing in June in response to a disturbing New York Times investigation exposing the exploitation of these children. At that hearing, we heard from child welfare and labor experts. Today, we'll hear directly from the executive branch officials about what steps the federal government is taking to confront this problem. I know there is bipartisan interest in this issue. Several Republican members asked me to hold today's hearing, which I was happy to do. I told them I'm happy to accommodate the request because I was already working to schedule it. It's a major challenge for our nation, and we need to face it honestly. In fact, there is a long history of both parties working together to protect these children. In 2008, the Senate unanimously passed the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, known as TVPRA. This legislation's protections for unaccompanied children were championed by our late colleague, Senator Feinstein. The bill was signed into law by Republican President George W. Bush. As a result, our laws now require that unaccompanied children arriving in the United States be screened for human trafficking, housed in child-appropriate settings, and reunited with family in the U.S. while they await their immigration proceedings outcome. These laws enshrine our nation's moral and legal responsibility to protect children, vulnerable children, many of whom are fleeing persecution. But the tragic reality is these children are still at risk once they arrive here. Since 2018, our nation has seen a nearly 70% increase in underage children working in positions in violation of child labor laws. And several states have responded to our labor shortage, amazingly, by passing laws and making it easier for children to work in many dangerous jobs. It's hard to imagine, but that is a fact. Now, when I was in college, I spent 4 summers working in a meatpacking plant in East St. Louis, Illinois. I can tell you it's no place for a kid. You can lose a limb or a life. The accounts of children as young as 12 years of age working in slaughterhouses and factories make us think of the 1830s and 1930s and not the modern times. I hope today's hearing will be an opportunity to continue the bipartisan spirit that led to current laws protecting unaccompanied children, who often have risked their lives to make a trek to this country. I want to remind everyone these unaccompanied children are just that, children. And I'd like to share the story of one of them, a teenager named Eric. He came to the United States as an unaccompanied child, took a job to help his family back home. His employer stopped paying him. He took Eric's birth certificate and immigration documents. He threatened to call immigration if Eric stopped working, and even worse, he threatened to harm Eric's family in his home country. Fortunately, Eric had the support of an adult who stepped in, a trusted post-release services social worker funded by the Department of Human Services. His social worker connected him to federal law enforcement as well as medical and legal services. I hope we all agree, no child should ever be abused, exploited, or trafficked. That's why I've tried to be consistent in my oversight efforts, whether the president is a Republican or Democrat. I vigorously opposed and still do the Trump administration's family separation policy. Earlier this year, I demanded that the Biden administration do more to protect migrant children. They've made progress since then, but certainly much more has to be done. We cannot forget the responsibility of the United States Congress. It is easy to criticize the executive branch, but first we should look in the mirror. It has been decades, 3 decades since Congress passed meaningful immigrant legislation. Instead of lobbying partisan attacks, let's come together across the aisle to fix our broken immigration system, secure our border, and protect these children. I reject the extreme that says not one more immigrant, and I've heard my colleagues in Congress say that, not one more immigrant. And I also reject the extreme that says we're doing just fine. The status quo is acceptable. We've got to find middle ground here that is reasonable, thoughtful, and reflects American values in a world which is teeming with refugees and people who are desperate to find new places to live. Imagine what's going on in the Middle East. We're going to feel it soon on the southern border if we haven't already. We should provide adequate funding to increase enforcement against child labor violations once children are here, and ensure these children have access to the services they need. We also need new safeguards to strengthen the promise of TVPRA. This week, I'm introducing legislation to improve sponsor vetting, placement, help children navigate the legal system, and better protect minors in government custody. I welcome my colleagues from either side of the aisle to join me in that effort.